call you. I said, no, I'm recording. Is Dad coming? I'm like, oh, of course.
You're
So
live.
he's sending me updates. Like, just put on it's game changer. My buddy, we can't have game changer in the middle of the meeting.
If we have time, Joe, I'm going to talk to you about the roof and some things with, I don't know, some leaks or something.
What section of the building?
The gym. Something about, I talked to Brian today, something about when they move the rocks. I don't know, he's going to contact SRS too. But
What? That's part of the replacement phases that you know off the top of your head.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Silver Lake Salem Joint One School District to order. The Boy Scouts are here, so please stand for the pledge led by them.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you,
Thank you.
boys.
Thank you,
guys.
All right, roll call. Mrs. Galich,
Here.
Mrs. Regner,
Here.
Mr. Hurst,
Present.
Mr. Gentile.
Present.
I am here. We'll move into the board reorganization.
Did you want to do open meetings?
Sorry, what means compliance check?
Yep.
We'll move into the board reorganization. The process for this, someone nominates a board member and asks that person if they are willing to accept the nomination. Board members can nominate themselves. Once the board president is nominated, that person directs the rest of the meeting. The board can decide if they want to allow for discussion on the merits of the nominee. Do we have a nominee for president?
I nominate Brian Hopkins.
I second that.
We have a nomination and a second on the table. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Hurst,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Regner,
Yes.
Mrs. Galich,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Vice President,
I nominate Mike Gentile.
is there a second?
Second.
A nomination for Mr. Gentile for Vice President. Start with a roll call. Mr. Hurst,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Regner,
Yes.
and Mrs. Galich.
Yes.
Mike will be the Vice President. Is there a nomination for Treasurer?
I will nominate Joe Hertz.
I will second. Mr. Hurst,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Regner,
Yes.
Mrs. Galich,
Yes.
and a nomination for Clerk. I'll nominate Mrs. Regner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gentile. Mr. Hurst,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Regner,
Yes.
and Mrs. Galich.
Yes.
And Mrs. Galich, you will then be the board member at large.
You betcha.
Any public comments? Again, these are limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any public comment? Okay. We will go into the approval of consent agenda items. Is there anyone that'd like to pull anything out? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed.
Motion by Mr. Hurst. Is there a second?
Brian, I abstained from the board minutes for March 18th. I was not here. So do we
Yeah.
have to pull that out? Or
Do we have to do them individually?
We'll pull out B. We'll approve A, C, D, E, and F. So can you make a nomination or your
Yeah.
motion for
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda A, B, C.
A, C, D.
I'm sorry, A, C, D, E, and F.
And
I'll
I will
second that.
second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You got to abstain. Oh, you can. Yeah,
No.
you're right. And then I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda item B.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
And Mrs. Regner abstains. Reports, District Administrator.
Okay, we'll start with the salute awards. These are, like I always say, my favorite part of the board meetings. Today, we are going to honor two people. One is Natalie Butler and Mary Acklam. She's not here tonight. She couldn't be here, but both are our Reading Corps volunteers, trained tutors that come into our school every day to support our youngest learners. They've been working with about 44 kids this year combined together in grades K through 3. I want to get this right. So together they've served 44 kids, and of those, 19 have already reached their goals, which is excellent, and graduated from the program. And 92% of them are currently in the program and are exceeding expectations. They just have remarkable dedication to the program. This is Natalie's second year and last, correct? No, one more year? 2 more years. Oh my goodness. Okay, I thought it was a 2-year stint, which is great to have you back and building the relationships with the kids. They love going. And Mary Acklam, this was her first year. She came in and did a dynamite job. She has a lot of years as a former classroom teacher, so she brought a lot of that experience with her. So we wanted to say thank you formally from the board and myself and the district for all the work you do every day. I know Ms. Rose loves working with you and having you support our students. So you can come forward. Walk around so we don't trip. There you go. Thank you. And then we get a picture with the board. They usually stand in the middle. Oh, Julie's going to take the picture. So let's take the picture. Oh, I don't want to hold them up. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. Perfect.
You almost got Amy.
Almost. I stop. Okay, and then moving on to celebrations. Obviously, one of the biggest celebrations is passing the referendum by the biggest margin in the state. So that's great news. And I'm going to talk a little bit. Jordan from Barrett is here to get us up to date on the financing, but I'm going to also talk about it when I talk about PSI. We also had our first run with the Gallup. So 82% of our staff currently, the window's still open for the survey, for the staff engagement survey. 82% of the staff have taken it. They were very excited. Ted Nitsky did a great job coming and talking to the staff. And then most of the staff that were there took it right away. So we should be getting those results probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that was exciting. The other thing that is exciting is Samantha McGarvey. She is our one of our guidance counselors. She is running a book club for parents and staff. And so this was following a PBL project that Renee Wojtkiewicz did about social media. And so it was, the kids debated about the effects of social media. Should it be limited by the government? Shouldn't it be limited by the government in front of their parents? And then we announced that we would be doing a book club on a book called The Anxious Generation, which many staff, our staff members read something different, but many staff members have read that book, and it talks all about the effects of social media on students' brains. So she's going to be running 2 evenings with that. So we have some parents and staff signed up for that. So that's exciting as well. And then I asked Julie if she would give a little summary or update on library and media services and some of the new things that her and I have been talking about in terms of connecting it to our, what did you say?
I said you caught her mid-bite over.
Oh, sorry.
She's panicking.
And,
It looked like.
yeah. Hurry up. In terms of our strategic plan and some of the things that Julie is going to do to support that. So go ahead.
So one of the great things that we are doing is we've invited some volunteers in to help with our library, which is going to give us extra hands into organizing, creating a better learning space in this area for our students. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I have drama practice. The other thing that we're going to do is we are going to integrate our library classes with our technology classes. So there's more of a synergy so that the students are getting more of a 21st century learning experience, and they're learning how to do more research, and they're learning how to use different media that they can take back then and work in their classes with. We're also going to be, fingers crossed, creating a makerspace lab in my office where we are going to then take those skills and put some hands-on activities for our students to be engaged in, that teachers can either use the space with their classes. They can come in as a whole class. We could do it as almost like an independent study where if students have, free time, they could come in and they can work in that area as well. And just bridging all three of these things so that we can engage our students, so that we can build upon their curriculum and they can get some hands-on learning experience no matter where they're at.
Awesome.
Exciting.
Go ahead.
What's a makerspace? For-
So are you going to call it a makerspace or
Actually,
Idea
we're gonna call
Lab?
it an idea lab.
Okay.
It's a little bit more of, makerspace is more hands-on where students are actually building things. It's going to be makerspace where they can build things, but it's also going to be a place where they can be creative, where they can come in. We're going to have the green screen in there. They could come in and they can videotape. They can do their own little podcast for an assignment. They could make a video. They could do voiceovers. They'll be able to have that accessible to them. And I'll be in there to show them how to use it. It's going to be everything from puzzles to marble roller coasters to Legos it is literally everything that could create excitement within that learning space. So it's a work in progress, but it is definitely, it's been started. If you
Mrs.
ever
Taylor.
walk back in between the library circulation desk and the lab, there is a pile of items that we've been purchasing that are going to go in there. We have to get them cataloged, which again is why we have our library helpers, so that we can start getting those things cataloged and we can get them into bins, and then we can start putting them in that space. It's really exciting to see this all coming together.
So it's exciting because we're getting the community involved by coming in and volunteering, and that helps us maximize our time, and also supporting the strategic plan around being more hands-on. And so as kids develop projects, right, part of that development is creating those projects and thinking outside of a poster or some diorama or something you have at home. There's 3D printing. Now, it's not always about the product, but that is part of what engages the kids, right? And how can you do more of that? So creating a space for that so that they can go to that. The teachers can utilize some more technology, because we're not probably tapping in to the immense amount of opportunity that's out there with technology between AI and all the other things. And so by having Julie in this role, she's also understanding the budget around common school funds and what we can use to leverage that to get some of those materials in there. One of the things that's going to be happening very soon is Julie and I are meeting with the Wilmot like technology club or something, and they're going to come over and do a video for us on PBL. They're going to interview people. It's free. It's nice. We're partnering with them. Well, we would love our kids to do that, right? And create those things, and because it just opens the world up to them. And kids are so much more adept at that than we are, if you give them the opportunity and the resources to do it. So it's exciting that it's going to be in that space, and we can kind of transform that. And also get kids, Julie's going to do more classes with especially K2, more kids in the library with the physical books in their hands, and being able to research topics of interest. So it's great.
Is that something other schools do, or is this a new thing?
I wouldn't say it's new.
Okay.
So Julie's, you've been to Randall?
I've been to Randall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so going to other places, looking around. I'm going to be at WASDA this week, and there's they always have all the vendors there, and so I'm going to go see one of them about the smart lab. So there's the ideas are kind of endless, and it's going to take a little bit of time to build it, but I think it can be a really great opportunity especially for our middle schoolers who are right there, to be able to come in and do some of the projects.
That's exciting.
Thanks, Julie. I appreciate it. Okay, so I wanted to give the board just a few updates from budget updates. I did include the budget adoption form in your board packet. As a reminder, there were some savings that we planned for this year. I shared this with you last, I don't know, probably around this time last year about some of the things that we had moved around or changed. The one thing that wasn't on that list was the high cost claims. So Angie has done a really nice job this year, along with Tim Stallmacher and Sue, in finding ways that we can make more high cost claims in Fund 27 to get some of that funding back. So that $7,000 was not accounted for, but will continue. If Tim has it his way, I mean, I think he wants to get blood from a rock somehow, but so they're working really hard to make sure we're maximizing the dollars and trying to find different ways to move things around. Projected for next year, there are a few just minor things. One of the things we're going to talk about at the end of this board meeting is the unusually hazardous transportation plan. And so I'll talk about that more. But some of the bigger savings are we moved our aides into Fund 27, so that gives us some money back on their salaries. Also, because the referendum passed, we're able to move some of our tech costs and our maintenance costs there, because if we're, much of what we were paying big money out for was our roof and boilers. If we have new things, the idea would be we wouldn't be paying for that. So those were some cost savings. And then there is the special services agreements that we have. The board, the last time I think we met, we talked about starting a fund at 80. And so that'll, we'll see some savings from that. And then I told the board, I think I might have done it in an update. We've applied for several grants. One of them was an advanced learning grant. So we'll find out about that in July. And then we are also working with Wilmot on a peer mentoring grant that would probably get us between $5,000 and $10,000. So just some increases there that I'm projecting. But we are also losing our declining enrollment exemption, which is $96,000. So trying to find ways to offset that was part of what I was doing as we were putting the budget together. The $325 increase, if you were listening to the news, you probably heard that the Supreme Court upheld the veto by Governor Evers. So we already had that built into our budget for next year. I think it'll be an interesting biennial budget, because I think there's some politics going on with, like, you got the $325, should we give you more? So I'm not optimistic. So I think being really conservative at this point is probably prudent on our end, because I don't know where we're going to be with that.
Kim, on the last slide, the $9,000 savings, what is that?
Oh, MIBS. Oh, you don't know what that is? No, I don't know. I don't know exactly what MIBS stands for.
What?
MIBS stands for, well, I don't know what exactly it stands for, but it is our managed service provider, what they do for us every month. And so we switched from one provider, K-12, to CompuNet. And when we switched, we saw a $9,000 savings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But the acronym, I'm not exactly sure if I can tell you exactly what it means. Okay. Year to date for Fund 10, you have the budget adoption form in your in your board packet. Some high level things just to be aware of is we're projecting about a $30,000 in increased funding from open enrollment in. So that's good. And we're going to be sending out about $20,000? No, what did I put in there? $40,000 less out for open enrollment. So that's some savings that we're going to see in this year's budget. We're going to see a little bit of a loss in Fund 27 because it was projected that it was going to be 33% of reimbursement through categorical aid, and it's coming in more at 30%. So that's going to equate to about a $20,000 loss in that fund. However, because of our high claims, we're going to get some of that back, so it offsets it a little bit. Those are the big chunks from the board
And prior
Okay.
to about a year ago, we weren't receiving any funds back in high cost or
Mhm.
categorical aid.
Well, categorical aid, yes, but not for AIDS, not
We
for the
weren't
AIDS.
maximizing categorical aid,
Yeah.
I think is what we found this year.
And we were not doing as much high cost claims as we could have. I think we did it for one situation, but not,
We had
As
one
many as
issue
we
placed
are.
out, and that was the only one I think we ever.
Thank you.
yep, any questions on those? Okay. So I'm gonna ask Jenny Javier to come up. She wants to give just an update on where we are with summer school and what it's gonna look like this year.
So just real quick, summer school's gonna run for 4 weeks from July 7th through July 31st. It's just Monday through Thursdays because we found that we had school on Fridays. Half the kids weren't showing up, so it wasn't really a good use of our time. So just Mondays through Thursdays, starting after the 4th of July. There were a couple changes we made this year. We had jumpstart programs for most grades, which was like getting ready for like second grade or whatever it is. And we changed that this year to just being reading support for kids who are currently receiving either reading help from Mrs. Butler in Reading Corps and Miss Stanford or from Mrs. Rose. It's going to be taught by Mrs. Rose, which should, even though we don't have to be compliant with Act 20 by now until like 2027, we will be. So we'll be ahead of the game. So that will be very nice. We also made sure that the classes were aligning with our strategic plan this year. So there's going to be like a lot of STEM classes, hands-on classes, a couple different type of like sewing, building, engineering, stop motion, just something different, interesting life skills that they might not get to normally do. And with that, if we integrate the reading and the math with that, because there's a lot of math in like if you do counting cross-stitch even, or if you're playing a game, or even in basketball, there's math if you break it down, that they'll get the reinforcement and a lot of academic skills that way instead of just having a reading class or a math class that's not necessarily targeted, it's kind of integrated. We did reduce it to 3 classes a day instead of 4. I made the classes a little bit longer to allow for more time for projects, so you're not getting everything out, getting started, and it's time to clean up and switch. So the classes are a little longer, it's only 3 a day. And to help with classes being more full, we are doing an online program for math. If parents want, they can sign up for that if their child would benefit from it. The program will walk the kids through it. There's like teachers on it. And it asks them questions as they go, but that way we won't have classes that are not a good mix where we had like 3rd to 6th grade in one class just because we didn't have a lot of kids and there was only a couple that would show up. So it'll be a better use of our teachers and our time.
Any questions about summer school?
Thank you for aligning it to the strategic plan and bringing some of those classes. Thank you for aligning it to the strategic plan, some of those classes. That's great.
So we did look at how to maximize the dollars during that time because there were quite a few classes last year where you'd walk in and it's one child and a teacher. So that's some of the movement and why we lengthen the classes and shorten the time period. Okay, board celebrations.
Well, obviously, thank you to the teachers, staff, admin, all of our community members who went and knocked on doors. Obviously, it was a great group effort to get the referendum passed, so certainly appreciate the support there that we received. And then the other thing I would just like to highlight is I came the night that Mrs. Wojciewicz and her class did the debate, and it was quite entertaining. Kids were engaged. They did a very nice job. Was a little difficult at times to hear them, but I got to imagine it was pretty nerve-wracking debating, especially if you were on the side that you didn't believe, in front of 50 people or so. But I thought it was a great project. It was great for me as someone who doesn't truly know and understand PBL to come see it in action. So appreciated that opportunity, and kudos to her and her group for doing that.
Yeah, I would echo that. Thank you to the Yes Committee. Obviously, passing the referendum is huge. Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Regner, Anna, obviously the teachers for the phone calls you guys made, the families, the administration team, and absolutely Kim for the work that you put into behind the scenes. I'm not sure everybody knows, quite frankly, how much went into that. And we had a lot of conversations offline about the work you were doing to make sure that we were prepared for all the information we needed for that. So thank you everyone for that.
Thank you.
I will echo
the referendum passing as well. It was very exciting, and I know there was a lot of hard work from every person, I feel like, in the community. So many different conversations. I love the videos from the kids that were online. It's just an exciting time for all of us. So very fun.
I have nothing to add to that. It's good.
I wouldn't say anything that wasn't already said, so.
All right. So Jordan Masnipa is here. As I said, I've met, Sue, myself, I think, was Tim there too? Was
Yes.
he meeting with you? All met with Jordan last week because now the referendum and that work is done. And now there's a whole new shift of things that we need to handle. And so Jordan's going to talk about the financial piece of it and what that's going to look like and what the board can expect as we move forward and a little bit of timeline stuff. So thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it. I know it's a drive.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's a short drive. So you're going to.
Yeah, I can do it. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's exciting that now we don't necessarily have to think about it in terms of hypothetical and estimates. We actually get to talk about the action plan going forward now. So as Kim said, about a week and a half ago, we met as a team, went through the whole process of how do we move forward, what are all the steps for a successful financing for the district. So I'm going to talk about an interest rate update, go through the detailed financing plan, and then go through a timeline and what you can expect going forward. So I've shown this to you guys and the community previously. This is the long-term history of tax-exempt interest rates. So this is an index of what you can expect for interest rates because you'd be issuing on a tax-exempt basis. So unfortunately, with all of the tariff talk going on, the trade talk, interest rates have spiked quite a bit. You may have seen in the equity market as well. There's a lot of volatility in the market with all of the talks going around globally. Thankfully, they have come down a little bit, but we're still in a very volatile interest rate environment. The good thing is we're not looking to issue debt for you right now. We have a little bit of time for it to play out. Hopefully things calm down over the next month or so. But we do have a plan in place to try to be really flexible and try to do what's best for the district in terms of timing. Then I'll get into that a little bit. But on the grand scheme of things, we're still in a good interest rate environment. So that's kind of the takeaway. If you look at the 30-year trend, we're still in the normal interest rate environment. So what are the goals for our financing plan? So I want to make sure that we are consistent with what we told the community, right? So one of the main goals is that referendum mill rate impact of 55 cents for debt, right? So that's really important. That's what we told the community, and we want to make sure that we hit that as we're finalizing the debt for the district. Along with that, we want to minimize total interest costs. So we want to make sure we're doing what we can to make this issuance attractive for investors, and then think about it in terms of timing. When is the best time to issue this debt? We want to minimize interest rate risk. Same thing what I just said. Think about what's going on in the market, and we want to try to minimize your risk. And then maximize investment earnings. So I may have talked about this with you guys previously. One advantage about the environment that we're in right now is short-term interest rates are actually relatively high. And how that can help you is, we're going to look to issue this debt for the district, the $7 million. You don't need all $7 million of it right away, right? The majority of your expenditures are going to be summer of 26. In the meantime, you can invest those funds. And there are firms that specialize in this. You get to keep all those investment earnings, and those can go into either additional projects that fit within the scope of the referendum, or it can pay down your debt. Those are the two options for those investment earnings. The vast majority use it for additional projects. Every district can find additional projects. I'm actually working with a district that I actually spoke with today that said, look, we have an additional $1 million that we can't do anything with. That's an anomaly. I guarantee you will find projects. So yeah, but that's an important factor, because as you're earning 4+% on your investment earnings on $7 million, that adds up. It's meaningful. So as we're going through this debt issuance process,
we're going to receive a rating on the district and on the debt. Your district was most recently rated by Standard & Poor's. So there are two firms. It's Moody's and Standard & Poor's that rate the municipal bonds throughout the state for school districts. You were previously rated AA- by Standard & Poor's, which is a great rating. So on this Moody's scale, that's equivalent to a AA3. You lost that rating as your debt that had it matured in spring of 24. Okay, that was your energy efficiency exemption debt that was ultimately refinanced. So you no longer have that rating outstanding. Since then, Standard & Poor's has kind of updated their methodology for school districts, and they've really focused a lot on the economics within a district and within a county. So I'm thinking it might not be as favorable for you guys. So we run we have scorecards that we can run, that we put in all the data for the district, the county, the state data, and it provides an indicative rating. And it came out a little bit more favorable for Moody's than it did Standard & Poor's. So it's not a certainty, it's just an indicative rating, but I feel more confident going with Moody's. So we're going to go with Moody's for this rating, and we're going to hope for a AA3 rating. There's no guarantee. It could be lower than that, and it would mainly be because of things outside of your control, right? What's going on in the economy, employment, inflation, that type of thing. For the structure of the debt, we're going to stick with the structure that we've been planning all along, and I'll show you the financing plan in a minute, but we're going to have a 20-year repayment. That's the maximum repayment for school districts in Wisconsin. And for these types of projects, it makes sense for it to be 20 years, right? These are long-term projects that make sense to pay off over a long time period. But we're going to structure it around your existing debt that's outstanding. So you don't have any referendum debt, but you have your energy efficiency exemption debt that you get to levy additional funds for to repay. So we're going to structure it around that so that outside of your operational dollars, your levy is relatively consistent. And then there will be a slight drop in your debt payments after that energy efficiency exemption debt falls off. I'll show you that in a minute. So again, it's going to be a $7 million issue. So we're going to issue it all at once. And the main reason, again, you don't need it all right away, but you're going to minimize issuance costs by having one issuance. And again, to get those dollars to reinvest right away is really advantageous. And you're locking in an interest rate once you have that lock, once you issue it. Right, this is fixed rate, so to be able to lock it in and know where you're at, it will help mitigate that interest rate risk. So I told you that I wanted to have flexibility in your plan. So what we're going to proceed with is called a parameters resolution. So historically, how we've issued debt at times is if your board meeting is on a Tuesday, we're going to sell the debt that morning, and then the board approves it that evening. Unfortunately, that Tuesday might not be the best day to sell debt for your district, right? So think about what's been happening in the market. If it happened to be one of these days that President announced 80-some% tariff, I mean, there was a day 2 weeks ago in which interest rates went up 0.5%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's over $500,000 of interest for your issuance. So, and nobody was getting deals done that day because of the uncertainty. So we want to avoid being locked into a given day ahead of time. Even your next meeting, your May meeting, that's the Tuesday right after Memorial Day, right? That's not a great day to sell bonds. People were on vacation, they weren't looking at it ahead of time, so it's hard to get their attention. So what we're going to do is called a parameters resolution, and this will be on your agenda for your next board meeting in May. So it's a resolution that stipulates all these parameters that we have to meet to sell when selling the issue, and if we meet all of them, the approval of that issuance is delegated. So rather than the board, we're going to delegate it to Kim. So the board is approving the parameters, and as long as we hit those parameters, Kim is approved to sign off on the actual sale. And of course, she will come back with the sale results. But it gives us flexibility, right? So in essence, then after you approve that parameters resolution, we have the flexibility to sell the bond issuance whenever we're ready and when it's a good time to do so in the market. right? There are also other districts that were successful around the state. So we also want to make sure we're not selling on the same day as, you know, a larger deal that's going to take the attention away from your issuance as well. So any questions on that?
So you talked about the interest or the money we can essentially earn on the money. Can it go in the general fund? Can it go into Fund 46 that we established, like for capital improvements? Does it matter where it goes?
Yeah, so it's going to stay in your Fund 49 account,
Okay.
which is your project fund. It has to stay for the referendum dollars. So again, the only things you can do with that investment earnings is additional referendum projects that fit within the scope of the referendum. If you have questions, you would ask the attorneys about it, counsel about it, or pay down your debt.
Got it.
So it's going to stay in that Fund 49 account. If you don't have any projects, it would be transferred to your Fund 39 account to pay down your referendum debt.
Thank you.
You went to the next slide.
Any other questions on that parameters resolution? Because that, like I said, that's going to come at your next meeting. So I want to make sure you're comfortable ahead of the next meeting. So that
Is there a time frame? Like, is it like a 2-week stint where within this time frame of the parameters being met, or is it really
No,
not?
I mean,
It's just literally.
ideally, we would look to sell it very soon after.
Okay.
So we're going to be ready to sell the issue probably by that May meeting, right around that time. So whenever it's a good day to do so in the market is when we're going to look to sell.
Would it be advantageous if there's like better days you guys can forecast to have like a special board meeting earlier in May to?
I mean, it's tough to do because sometimes, I mean, there are days where, you know, I'm working with our underwriter and they say, you know, this deal's no longer pricing. I think we should sell tomorrow. So it'd be hard to get a special meeting together. I mean, ideally, you would still want to know about that. at
Well, I
least a
mean,
week
like
in
when you
advance.
say that Tuesday after Memorial Day is a bad day, what are the good days?
Oh, yeah. So that's a part of it, right? It's the Tuesday after holiday, but there's just so much volatility in the market in general right now.
So there's no trends like within the month.
Not really. I
Tuesday
can't tell
after
you
payday.
that Wednesday is going to be a good day right now. There's just too much going on globally and politically to be able to predict that.
You're saying a special meeting to give them the flexibility to go sooner if possible?
Yeah, I don't think he was
Yeah, 'cause
talking
I'm-
about.
Oh, I
Because our
see what
board
you're
meeting's
saying.
not till the
To be even
27th.
going sooner.
So
than
not
that.
to wait
Our
another
board
month.
meeting's not till the 27th.
We have a lot to do before then, kind of.
Yeah, so there's still a lot to do
Yeah.
for this issuance, and I'll show you a timeline shortly. There's a lot to do on our end. We have to prepare a large document that says everything about the transaction, everything about the district. We have to have rating call with Moody's. They need time to be able to provide the rating. There's attorneys involved that has to prepare all the paperwork. So we probably wouldn't be ready to go ahead of that 27th meeting anyway.
Could you hold off then till beginning of June?
Well, it doesn't matter because once we give the approval of the parameters, they'll go when they're ready. Like they don't need our approval. again.
Right,
They
yeah.
just have to get in touch with
So
you.
you approve it on the 27th, the parameters resolution,
You
we
would
could in
still-
theory price it on the 28th.
So I guess what the thing to keep in mind, if you guys get ahead of schedule and we need to put a special board meeting together to push it back on you guys, like do it
Yep.
whenever is best for you, we would be willing to do a special board meeting to give the approval to
Yeah.
keep the district in a good
We
spot.
definitely keep that in mind. It's a pretty tight timeline already. We're already kind of going as fast as we can.
I think the point is we just don't want to be the ones slowing it down.
No, and
So-
you're not. I think the timeline as we're laying it out works perfectly.
Okay.
We're already kind of rushing things as fast as we can. But yes, if for some reason the rating call comes in sooner and they can turn it around faster, and there's a reason to do so, we'll definitely keep that in mind.
And I'm also meeting with, what are those companies called? Investment companies? Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, so we talked about the investment of the bond proceeds. There are companies that specialize in this. So there are a few companies that Kim is speaking with to see who she's most comfortable with, and ultimately we'll choose one.
So I'm meeting with them. Sue is on those calls and Tim. And so we had one meeting, we have one meeting tomorrow, and then I'm setting up one more meeting and looking at the different companies and, you know, Tim's doing some research in the background and Sue's been on the calls as well. And then we'll make a decision, let Jordan know what that decision is. So those things all take a little bit of time to be able to sort through.
There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. The other good thing, if you go back for a
Yep,
minute,
sorry.
so another good thing about the process and how we're doing it is, so we have a team of underwriters and salespeople that are going to sell the bonds for the district, and we're trying to sell them to large institutional investors. So think like large mutual fund companies, insurance companies that they invest their portfolio in, large banks. But if you have a local bank that the district has a really good relationship with, let us know, and we can have our salespeople reach out to them if they're interested in purchasing a portion of it. It doesn't happen every time, but it's not uncommon for a local bank to be interested.
Okay.
So yeah, just let me know on that. So this is the detailed financing plan. I know I've showed a hypothetical version of this previously. So it's a lot of numbers here, but I'll try to simplify it here. The good thing is right here is our interest rate. This is somewhat conservative, and to be honest, we ran this last week when the volatility was really high, but we're showing a 5.12% interest rate on this. The good thing is it's below our referendum estimate of 5.25, so we're still below that estimate, which is obviously great. We're still hitting our tax impact estimate of 55 cents, but again, so we're structured, this is your existing energy efficiency exemption debt that's being repaid until the 33-34 school year. We're going to structure around that such that your combined payments are flat throughout. And actually, there's a little drop of roughly $50,000 after your existing debt is paid off. And then, of course, the far right column is your tax impact showing that 55-cent impact. Okay. So this is the timeline going forward. So obviously, we're discussing the plan tonight. So from here, as I said, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. We're going to have a rating call with Moody's. We're going to have a call with the attorneys at Quarles and Brady to go through that offering document. To make sure all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And then you're going to see that parameters resolution at that May 27th meeting. And that's right around the time when we should receive the bond rating and when our bond desk is going to start marketing the issue to investors. So hopefully late May, early June is when we're locking in that interest rate. And right now we're projecting to close this issue at the end of June. And that's when the district receives the $7 million of bond proceeds. And then, of course, having that first payment be next year, after you receive your first levy. Okay, that's a lot of information. Any questions on any of this?
No, I thought you did a very thorough job of explaining it quite well.
Thanks. It's a lot, and it's not something you do often, obviously, especially a district your size. So just know, if anything, we're a phone call away to help throughout the process. But yeah, hopefully shortly after that May meeting, Kim will be able to share the results with you all.
So if we don't receive any funds till the end of June, some of this work that you were thinking might not be able to get done, or how are you?
You know, they sort of know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So the contractors should be flexible on that.
Yeah.
Just tell them, look, we're getting our funds at the end of June. So, you know, the architectural fees, that type of thing, just if you could wait till then. The other route is you pay for it out of general fund and you can reimburse yourself.
Okay.
I asked that question too.
Okay.
And it was fine.
Okay.
Most of the contractors, like you said, are okay with that, especially when it's with public school after they pass their referendum, because they know the funds are coming.
Yep.
And a lot of them are 60 to 90 days on a lot of this stuff anyways. So
Okay.
be impactful.
Any other question? Jordan's been great. I'm so grateful for you. So came out, I mean, the next day you emailed me and said, "Hey, Kim," I was like, "Oh man, I can't even get like 24 hours." And came out and met with us and explained things in detail. I had a ton of questions, and so thank you so much, and lots of good emails back and forth. The whole Baird team is just you're really amazing.
I appreciate the comments.
Yeah.
It's great working with the district.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
So any other questions on the parameters resolution as you're gonna see it next month?
So you're gonna go through next month, you'll actually explain the parameters that you guys are looking to hit.
So I wasn't planning to, but I can.
I think
I guess will we
I'm
have
probably going to be the
will
one.
we have it in, I mean, it's
You
just
should,
in advance
yeah,
to,
so the attorney should be able to provide it ahead of time, ahead of
Okay.
the meeting.
so if we have questions, we have time for back and forth.
Yeah.
if there is
So the
questions.
big things are like a maximum interest rate. I think we'll set that around 5.5%, knowing that we're at 5.1 or maybe 5.75. We want to have some cushion there, right? Like some of it's out of our control. A lot of the other things are pretty straightforward, like the repayment. We know what years it's going to be repaid, but that's in the parameters resolution. There'll be a parameter like Associated Trust is going to be the paying agent on it, meaning the district pays Associated Trust, and Associated Trust is the one that pays bondholders. That's what is consistent with your current debt that's outstanding. And then, you know, it's going to state that it's delegated to Kim, assuming we meet all of those parameters. But the parameters are all going to be consistent with what you just saw in the financing plan. So, yeah, when you get it, if you want to review it, if you have questions, pass them along. Otherwise, if you guys want me at that meeting, I can probably make that work too.
If Kim can explain it to us, we should be okay.
I think if we have it in advance and we're able to ask
Yeah.
any questions that come
Okay.
up,
Yeah.
give you the opportunity to, if you don't know it, right?
Right.
Okay.
That helps.
Thank you for all
Sounds
the help.
good.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you.
yeah, thank you for your time. And again, I know this is a lot, so if, you know, you're a week from now, if the question comes up, just pass it along. Be happy to help.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
George.
you all.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I thought that I would just give you a little bit more of an update around the referendum as well. So I met with Baird. Also, I met with PSI and their project manager to sort of say, okay, like now what, where are we going with things? So PSI will come probably at the next board meeting to talk a little bit more in detail. It was a little early. So obviously the referendum passed. Right now we have a contract with our attorneys. So PSI drafted the contract. Now our attorneys are looking at it. And they're going back and forth, making some adjustments. And then once that is signed, and they've already started with some bidding, or not bidding, but coming out and looking at things. When we sat down, we talked about what are the things that we think we need to get done. For sure, the boilers, right? We want to have good heat this winter. The fence is an easy thing to knock out. The lighting is an easy thing to knock out. So we had some people around the lighting come through, and Brian walked them around, and then their architects or the people from PSI came and also looked at our roof, because one of the things we're trying to do is put off the roof until next year and do some patchwork again, minor patchwork, so that that money can stay, because it's a big project, that money can stay and earn interest. So that's sort of where the timeline is. And then the other big things that will be done next summer are probably the vestibule, the roof, the playground equipment for sure. Some of the playground equipment, especially, you know, we need to get more community and staff input on that. We may do some furniture purchasing ahead of time, you know, this summer. We'll have to see how that all goes. So their process is they go gather the bids and they bring them back. And so that's sort of what they're going to talk to you guys about next time. But for this time, I'm asking the
Kim?
board, go ahead.
How, when PSI is going to get these bids, how are they determining the contractors that they're going to get these bids from?
So from some, I'm giving them some. So if there is, like I said, I wanted SRS to come and bid, right? Because they've done our roof before. Brian, if he has people that we've worked with, we do that. If the board has people, we can.
So if we have like local companies
Yes,
that we want to
right.
honor. Okay.
right? And
Do
they
you
bring
put
up,
the bids out like in the Daily Reporter or something like that, where they have schools and county work and different things like that?
wait, what are you
It's called the
asking?
Daily Reporter, where you can put requests for bids to go.
Oh, like
in.
an RFI or RFQ?
Well, it's a request for bids to receive it. It's, well, it used to be called the Daily Reporter, and it's more for public entities to put their requests for bids, and they put their information in there, what they're looking for, and I mean, it
So-
goes out statewide, and whoever gets that, and maybe you might get some
Okay.
interesting pricing.
So Vicky, just so you're aware, in my conversations with PSI, that's the aspect that they handle. It's essentially the same thing, but when schools, public schools, and a lot of public entities used to do that, it was before they had companies essentially like PSI
Got it.
who do that.
Okay.
And that's why they told us from the beginning of this that they'll take whatever contractors we would like to suggest, whether they're local contractors or contractors that we're familiar with. And then on top of that, then they will also go out and use some that they've worked with in the past or ones that they're familiar with that they've used. Generally speaking, unless it's a government project outside of a public school district, that kind of stuff doesn't go to open bid anymore.
Oh, it doesn't?
I mean, it is an open bid, but you don't post for public bid just because you're not required to. And also because that's one of the aspects that PSI handles as part of the service that they provide.
Okay.
So how many different bids do they get? Like
I believe they look to have at least 3 bids for each scope. But they would get more if we wanted that. And that's the other thing too, is if they come back to us with all these different bids and we say, we're not comfortable with these, we want to get additional bids, they'll do that as well.
That's all right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And I just, on the back slide, is the roof going to hold out for,
Well, Brian, go ahead.
The roof needs just a few Band-Aids and we'll be fine until next year.
okay,
It does need a few things done to it, but I think we can get by having them come out, put a couple patches on it, we should be good to go,
okay.
so.
There are bigger buckets. Sorry.
Not wrong.
So the Band-Aid cost makes sense for the money we'll make to keep it in.
Generally speaking, with that type of, I mean, I assume a lot of these are just really small areas.
Yeah, I've got a couple small leaks in the big gym that need to be done before we do the floor.
Then that's what you
So-
were talking about before.
Yeah.
These are like 2, 3 that we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
we'll take care of those and then they can come in and take care of the floor. So-
yeah, to do something like that is way more cost effective than to do the whole section at a time, and it doesn't put us back a whole lot to do that. It's very, very affordable and considerable, considering everything that we're gonna have to spend in the next few years. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I'm asking that the board authorize me to be able to sign the contract with PSI with the parameters that it's approved by our legal attorneys. Our attorneys, like I said, are looking at it now, and it must not exceed $7 million. So it's the contract between the district and PSI after it's authorized by our attorneys and not to exceed $7 million.
So if we made money on our money and that exceeds 7 million, would we need a new contract then? If we
No.
use that for referendum stuff?
No,
It's not tied-
Contract
it's not
is still
tied
7
together.
million.
It's-
Yeah.
They're just earning interest off of it.
Yeah.
The interest has nothing to do with.
Got it.
Good question. I will make a motion to approve authorizing the district administrator to sign a contract between PSI and the district for work with the referendum pending the approval of the district's legal counsel of the contract not to exceed $7 million.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Hurst, second by Mr. Gentile. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Kim, just out of curiosity, I know it was brought up, if there is a list of vendors, do you want us to get those to you?
yeah, that would be
Like
great.
If we have people.
Yep,
or
if you have people that could do any of the work.
so
I've sent them a
consistent.
couple, so like I had some furniture ones that I knew. They're not, when we get to the gym floor, I'm not going through them for that. We're doing that ourselves. I'm doing the crisis alert system myself because I had already started with some relationships with people. So Bruce and I are working on hearing their spiels and stuff and getting that. So that's outside of the scope, but it's still going to come through the referendum dollars. Does that make sense? I'm just not giving PSI that time to go, they have to go bid the rest of the stuff. Okay, so
And do
Rick,
we, sorry,
go ahead.
do we have to bid out all the projects or like something like that? Joe, you said something we require to go.
I don't hold me to this, but I believe that when it's a public entity, you do have to allow it to be bid by at least 3 contractors. If it's a government entity outside of public schools, then it does have to go to public bid. You have to put it out to public.
So for those
So our policy says 2. If it's over, I think 20,000, it's either 20,000 or 22,000. I have to get 2 bids, and so
But you don't have to go to public bids.
right, I just have to get 2 bids. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So we're gonna shift. Rick Labian is here from NIS to talk about our benefits. Our benefits advisory committee has been meeting for the past 3 or 4 weeks. They've been doing great work. So if you remember, the board approved the committee. Brian and Vicky are on it. We also have staff members on it, and Andrea and I are attending the meetings as well. We looked at really 2 options for the district. Should we stay with UHC and look at what their increases were, or should we look at ICRA? So we spent a lot of time with, sort of helping the committee understand where we are financially and what the impacts of both programs would be. And so, it says this Thursday. Yeah, it'll be, I put this on there for, this was part of last week's, but they met again. And then I met with some teachers today. So Rick's going to kind of walk the board through the plan called ICRA that's different than UHC, so that you have a handle on what we're proposing. Go ahead, Rick.
So an ICRA is a different way of providing health insurance. It stands for Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Arrangement. So right now you have a group plan with United Healthcare, very traditional. The group market, particularly for schools, any employer under 100 lives, has been very volatile, has been for a number of years. I don't know if I told you this, Kim, but a district elsewhere in the state slightly larger than yours with United Healthcare got a 50% increase a week ago, 50. So, we talked about, the traditional model is, well, shop it out, see what Anthem will do, see what WCA will do. But
sorry,
really,
Rick, can you stand over here so the people behind you can see the screen as well? Or
oh, sorry.
Yep, thanks.
You see okay now? So a few years ago, really this ICRA concept started to become available in the marketplace. And the idea is, instead of an employer group providing a group health plan, it's a defined benefit arrangement. Instead, we're going to say, we're going to give you money to all of your employees and allow them to go on the individual marketplace and get their own health insurance with the assistance of an advisor. And so one of the big advantages, several advantages, but one of the big advantages is the health status and the claims activity of your covered staff and their families do not come into play in the individual marketplace. So this group that's getting a 50% increase, they have some large ongoing claimants. And so United Healthcare has lost money and basically is saying, we don't want you anymore. That is not a risk of the individual market. So how does it work? Like I said, right now the district pays a certain percentage towards the group health insurance coverage. And instead, with a move to an ICRA, they provide tax-free funds into this ICRA account. OneBridge is the vendor that we've partnered with. They have full legal team, full agent support. This ICRA concept would not work, in my opinion, if you just gave the money to your folks and then threw them out onto the marketplace and said, go pick a plan. There's like 14 carriers in the Wisconsin marketplace. Each of them offers, I mean, there's literally hundreds of plans. It would fail because people would be confused and scared. So OneBridge's advisors take them through a one-on-one consultation and help them choose a plan that fits their family's needs, okay? They use the funds in the ICHRA to pay those insurance premiums, and any unused funds stay with them and roll over year to year. So one of the big advantages of an ICHRA is right now you have one plan design with United Healthcare, and one size does not fit all necessarily. Everybody's family has different health needs. They see different doctors. So in the individual marketplace, they take that money, and we benchmarked the contributions to an individual plan that's similar to what you have right now on a group basis. But each person can take that money, and if they want to buy down to a less rich plan, they keep that difference. They just gave themselves a pay raise in effect, okay? Or they can choose to buy something similar to what they have right now, or they could buy up even to, you know, a richer plan if they wanted to do that, okay? So kind of hit on these a little bit already. Tailored fit coverage. You can even choose within your own family. So if I've got 4 family members, 3 can buy a lesser cost plan. Let's say I have a bunch of healthcare needs coming up, surgeries, things like that. I could buy a richer plan for myself, and then we could change that or make different decisions at next open enrollment. Every employee gets a one-on-one consultation, and we had 3 members of the Benefits Advisory Committee go through a mock enrollment with an agent, and really they just came back with glowing marks. They said, I feel so much more comfortable after having gone through it with the agent.
Yeah, I think all 3 of them were, and there was, one of them had single coverage, there was family coverage, you know, more mature in age, younger in age. And they all 3 of them said it was a great experience. They learned a lot. They felt like it was really personalized, and they understood what was going on because they come to the meeting with, here are my prescriptions, here are my doctors, what's going to fit? Because many times the question is, well, if I change, is my doctor going to still be in the plan? You know, you have longtime doctors, you're comfortable with it. So all of those things sort of, I think, really helped those 3 feel very comfortable.
And I think the one had already filled out the questionnaire. So the representative from OneBridge already knew all the information. So her contact with them was, she stated, was less than a half hour. And they had already had a plan for her, but did go over other plans. And when she hung up, she said she felt very good about what she went through. So
this process is very similar to what our more mature citizens go through when they're buying their Medicare supplements and Medicare open enrollment. You kind of think of it that way.
I can attest to that.
So this just gets into the agent assistance that's available through OneBridge. So it would be during the initial open enrollment, during the plan year. So you bring new hires on board, or somebody has a qualified life event, they would assist with helping people make those decisions. And then upon separation of service, they can continue to, because they may still have money in that ICHRA account, they can continue to work with their agent. They can help them, you know, as I said, when they get to be Medicare age with supplements and things like that. Okay, so I feel like I'm the beard guy now. I don't have as many numbers as
The beard guy.
But what we modeled it after was, you can see here, so this is the premium for each of these different individual plans. So they chose 2 bronze plans with United Healthcare and Anthem, 2 silver plans, and 2 gold plans. And we modeled the premiums for those plans against the contributions that the district would be putting in for a person age 48. So we just kind of picked a, you know, kind of a middle-aged person. And you can see here that this contribution will allow them to buy a gold level of coverage, which is actually better level of coverage that they have on the group plan currently, and save a little bit of money, have money left over that is in their account. You can see right now a single enrollee pays $138 a month for the current group plan, so that would be going away, plus they'd have a little excess left over. They could also elect to buy a silver plan or a bronze plan and have additional excess in their HRA account. So the idea here is there's going to be plenty of people at the district that can either get a really good level of coverage or basically get a pay raise because their contribution towards healthcare is going to go down. But it's their choice. Let me pause there. Questions about any of that I just covered?
I don't have questions about this particular aspect, but before we go too much further, I do have a couple of questions about things we've already covered, and maybe I missed this one, but why is it that self-insured is not an option for our size district?
It's just too risky. Typically, we want to see at least 100 employees on the plan, closer to 200, because it can just be too volatile, number one, and you run the risk of the reinsurance or the stop loss carrier that takes care of the large claims, giving you a whopper of an increase.
Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of self-insured then. So when we're talking about self-insured, that's the entire district insuring, providing a package for.
Correct. So right now you're what's called fully insured with United Healthcare. So they set the premiums every year. The district pays them, but they're not taking any risk. In a self-insured model, the district would be taking some claims risk.
Okay.
And I did investigate that. I met with a couple of DAs and obviously he said we're too small, but one of the districts that I met with, one district had a 40% increase. They went to self-insured. Typically, you don't get that much of an increase, but they did it that year. And the other district said if they have another bad year, they will lose their, what did you call it, stopgap insurance?
And stop loss.
Which means they'll have to come off of self-insured because, the stop loss insurance, they're dipping into that too much because they have too many high cost claims.
And then my next question is with this model that you've presented here, how is that alternative to, say, an individual employee going out and finding their own insurance as opposed to taking insurance through the district? And where I'm going with this is what if instead of providing insurance through the district provided a reimbursement to the individual to go and seek out their own insurance or their own provider?
But that's in effect what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what this is, except for it's through the district. The district is providing this, right?
No, they're just providing the funding. They're putting the money into the ICHRA account, and then they're, with the assistance of a OneBridge agent, going out onto the individual marketplace and buying their own coverage. So, and if they will own the policy.
They own the policy, but the policy is provided through where
it's just the money. It's just the district giving them the money to do it.
But the district's not giving the money directly to the employee. The district's giving the money to.
It's putting it into ICHRA because it's a tax advantage vehicle, so it goes in tax-free and comes out tax-free for eligible premiums, medical and dental.
Whereas if we were to just reimburse the employee that amount, they'd be subject to tax.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay.
And they shop this, so it stays like your typical insurance in regards to there's an open enrollment period and then any like life-changing instances, it kind of all follows that same model.
Correct. Although the open enrollment, so with your plan right now, it's a group plan that renews July 1st. So you would typically be doing open enrollment next month.
Yeah.
The individual marketplace, their open enrollment is every November for a January 1 effective date. So that's just how the individual market works. Everything renews and resets for January 1.
So
How would we get caught up then with where we're at? How would that work? We're gonna have to do
You have a
this.
short plan year.
They're gonna have to do
initially.
it. Staff's gonna have to go through this twice, essentially.
Yes,
right?
the first year they'd make, which is actually not a bad thing because it would enable them to kind of make a choice. and then see how that worked
Shorter
for,
window.
for July 1. And then again in November, they'd be able to either keep the same plan or make a different choice for 1/1 of 26.
So essentially kind of gives them the scapegoat if they felt like they make a bad choice.
Yes.
actually.
Well, what we talked with the committee about too is because there's an open enrollment every year and because they don't care, it's a large pool of individual risks at the state level. Somebody, let's say I had a surgery coming up and it wasn't like I could wait on it a little bit, say knee, hip or something like that. Maybe I have lesser coverage this year and then I buy up to a higher level of coverage, get my surgery done, and then make a different choice at next open enrollment. So definitely can do that.
And can either of you speak to the staff perspective on this from the committee?
It was unanimous.
They loved it.
Yeah, they did love it.
Yeah.
It was unanimous.
It was
I think
overwhelming.
I went around to each one. I talked to every one of them today as well, because, and Rick's going to talk a little bit about this gold plan, but I think the people that were on the committee were very excited about it and felt like it's almost like, is there going to be a shoe that drops? Because it feels like,
Too good to be true.
yeah.
Well, but to your credit and the benefits committee and all the people that were on it, a month or two ago when we started this, as you might imagine, there's uncertainty, there was questions, maybe a little bit of fear, but because we took some time and we educated, and especially because people got to go through that mock enrollment, by the end of it, those fears were, kind of went away.
So is the agent support just to get the employee set up on their benefit plan? And then they would call like a 1-800 number on the back of their new insurance card?
Yes, they would get their own insurance card, and what we've said, it's no different than a group plan. There's questions that come up when you use your health insurance. Sometimes you don't understand your explanation of benefits, or sometimes you feel like a claim was not covered properly. We would always advise members to contact the insurance company first. 9 times out of 10, they'll get that resolved. Maybe 1 time out of 10, they're spinning their wheels and feeling not heard and frustrated. That's when we want them to contact the district, get us involved. It'd be the same thing with OneBridge, is that contact the carrier first, but if you're having problems, reach out to your OneBridge representative and see if they can help.
And I think it's true to state that in the beginning, in fact, at our last meeting last week, it was actually stated that in our first couple meetings, there was a lot of nervousness about this whole plan and that. And then when they went through the open enrollment, the 3 of them that did, and saw the ease of it and actually reported, and then more information came out about the plan based upon some questions, you could see that this last meeting, that the tensions and the
Everybody
fears.
relaxed a little bit.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, right, yeah. And it was, in the room, you could see there was a different attitude that was in the room. It was good to see. I wish this was around when I was young and dumb.
So this exhibit here really speaks to the 18 months. So the last slide was how the members would be impacted and their costs. This is the impact to the district. And this assumes a 6% increase for January 1 of 26 in the individual marketplace overall. We looked at the last 4 years of historical trend in the individual marketplace when pegging it at that. So with your United Healthcare group plan, we actually got a reasonable 8% increase this year. But this is the employer costs over an 18-month period with United Healthcare, and then the same projections by putting in the money into the ICHRA and carrying that down. So for the first 6 months, and then the 12-month period, January through December of 26. And you can see the savings over that 18-month period, a little under $200,000 of savings for the district by going to this model versus the group model. Not every analysis that we've done looks as good as it does for Silver Lake. It does in your case based on how the numbers and the current enrollment and ages of your staff.
I see what you mean before when you said it's like almost waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right.
It's kind of a no-brainer.
So one of the things that the committee asked Rick to do is look at, so there's different levels. There's the bronze level, silver level, and gold level. And the committee asked him to go back and price out, because originally they priced out the silver level.
Because the silver level was what was comparable to
Right.
your group plan.
And then we would also, at that point, be contributing to their HRA, right, that 2,000, 4,000. So we asked them to go back. So that came in. That's why I talked to the teachers today, to go back and say, well, what would the gold cost if we just funded the gold? And then people could choose from within that, and did not do the HRA contributions, which we don't need to do if they are on the gold because there's 0 deductibles, right? That's why we had the HRA contribution. So hands down, and I know Brian and Vicki, you were on the committee, and this is the first time you're hearing it, but hands down, the people on the committee said, of course, we want the gold because it's a Cadillac, and it's basically a cost neutral for the district. So we're not really saving more money because we would be giving HRAs.
Right. Instead of the silver plus the HRA, the idea is just fund the gold and have the HRA go away.
So it's essentially a wash.
Yes.
For
And
6 months?
no, so we're going to make an 18-month. Yeah, we're going to make an 18-month sort of commitment
to that funding.
because it's too much to be changing in the middle of the year and going back and forth. So with that, not giving the first of all, it's internally less work and hassle because there's no, Sue doesn't have to do all of that work. And then it's also cost neutral. They're getting a better benefit. And if people still want HRA money in their account, they could take a lower plan and then their money would build up, as you saw in that last slide. Does that make sense?
Because it's individual.
It's individual, right?
So
You're saying
70% of them could take the gold and 30% could take.
but they would still get the money for the gold.
They would still get the money for the gold.
excess
That's right.
voting.
So anything that's less than the contribution would become HRA funds, right?
Yes.
So
Their
Kim,
premium, I should say.
Correct,
anything
and
less than
that
premium.
acts as a buffer too for the people that do that. If rates go up, because every year the district, if they stay in the ICRA model, every year the district will make a decision what to do about the funding level. Are we going to increase the funding a little bit? Typically, that's what employers do because costs march up. But so people can take that funding for that year plus whatever they still have from last year or the year prior and have that to either pay their premiums or if they choose a bronze or silver plan that has a higher deductible, they can use those monies tax-free to pay deductibles, co-pays, unreimbursed expenses like that.
so Kim, I have a question then. So in closed session, we're discussing CPI raises and where they might fall. With all this in the picture, how much money is going to be more in their paychecks because
Yeah.
they're moving towards?
So at a single,
Nice segue.
yeah, thank you for that. So for if you're single covered, you will get an additional $1,500 a year in your paycheck around. Does that make sense? Because that $1,500 isn't coming out of your paycheck. If you're a family, if you've been taking family plans because we're paying the premiums, you will see an additional about $4,200 because those things are not being removed. So essentially, depending on what the board, if the board, for instance, goes with CPI, it in their pocket as a single, if you had single plan, you'll see about a 6% raise. If you're going on a family plan, it becomes more, 13% because of what you've been having taken out of your check will no longer come out of your check.
And is that CPI on the base or on the mean?
That's calculated on the base. If you calculate it on the mean, because of these savings, if the board decides to give CPI on the mean, this with you're still getting more money than you would if you got a raise on the mean, because they're getting $2,700 or something, right? And the cost on the mean would be about $2,000. So the money that the the teachers are going to feel is a 6% increase or a 13% increase, depending on if they were taking family or single coverage.
How many employees do you have that take no coverage?
We have 15 employees, well, professional staff members that take, that have cash in lieu currently. I mean, they can change.
One thing I didn't mention, just real quickly, some of the folks sitting around here may know this, but on the individual market, the rates for policies are based on age. So the contributions that we used in the forecasting are so that each person has the same purchasing power. For instance, a 25-year-old, the same health insurance plan as a 60-year-old, it might be $400 versus $1,000. So if you just gave everybody $700, that younger person's going to be in a great position. The more mature person's going to be out of luck. So OneBridge, through their analysis, made sure that there is similar purchasing power. So more senior staff are going to have more money to spend, younger staff less, but they're all going to be able to purchase a similar plan for that money.
Okay.
There's very much a fairness thing that we looked at. Any other questions for me? Is that everything that we had? Kim?
I think so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not for me. Thank you. Very informative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next steps on our part is obviously for the board to determine if this is something you want to move towards. I already have a meeting on the books tomorrow with our staff to kind of talk through this if the board goes through this, or then talk through whatever other option we're going to look at. NSI will come in to present to the staff, and Rick said it would, we would video it or record it so that people could watch it, if they don't get it the first time around, because it's a lot to absorb. Staff will meet with one-on-one with OneBridge reps, so we'll set up those times so that OneBridge has said a staff our size would take about a week to complete to get through the entire staff. And the NIS, I'm hoping that they'll be able to come and meet with the board in a special board meeting to talk then about the next step, which is OPEB benefits and what does that look like. And then the committee is also going to be meeting about that. That's the next step for the committee. That happens May 1st. And then at the end of May or possibly in June, the board will have to make some decisions about the OPEB benefit packages, and we'll have to revisit what our support staff packages look like too. So this is right now professional staff package.
Do we know what United Healthcare came in?
Yeah, 8%. Yep.
Anybody else have any questions on this one?
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, what's the negative?
Yeah, I asked that too. The negative is that we have to make a change, right? And that some staff, I think the staff I'm going to meet with them tomorrow to say, like, slow down, chill. And the committee members that have been working on the committee are available to talk to, especially those 3 that went through it. I don't know that it would have been unanimous if it wasn't as favorable as it is. Staff members are going to get a Cadillac version, essentially. I don't know when the last time anybody had a 0 deductible plan and not have to pay for it.
We're going to have these staff members available during this meeting that they can kind of
Yes.
speak to.
Yeah, tomorrow they're coming.
So last question I have, are we essentially, if we make this motion and move forward with it, we're doing this for an 18-month window? Is that accurate, right?
Yes. So we're going to try it for 18 months. And as the committee talked, we talked about just like anything, you're making the best decision you can in the moment that you have, right? And so who knows what 2 years is going to bring? 2 years ago, we didn't know that this was going to be this way. So that's sort of the deal.
Does the 18-month need to be noted in the motion?
That was why I was asking, is do we need to document that we're making this change for this upcoming insurance plan? And
Sure, we can put 18 months in there if you want.
I didn't know if we needed.
Because
to put it on
we reevaluate it every year.
Yeah,
so-
we typically don't I typically don't have to come back to you unless there's a change, right? There's not going to be a change. So
Next year we would.
if you want, it's not going to hurt it to put 18 months in.
I'll make a motion to approve moving to the ICRA contribution for the professional staff as the Silver Lake Salem Joint One School Board District's healthcare benefit for a term of 18 months.
Motion by Mr. Hurst,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Gentile. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So did you
carries.
capture the 18-month? Okay. All right, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate it. Their team, just
Thank
like
you, Rick.
Jordan,
Thank you.
has been amazing. I mean, I'm sure you're sick of all the emails you're getting from me because I no sooner launch an email and then another question pops in my head and then I'm emailing them again. So I really appreciate it. Plus phone calls.
Happy, that's part of our role is to help find a good solution for all of our clients. So I'm just thrilled it worked out.
Yeah.
You
So
guys should reach out to Wilmot High School, one of our neighboring districts.
well, don't worry. I've been talking a lot about it with districts,
Appreciate that.
and I'm telling my husband's work too.
Is
You
it
guys could
any
get on this
type of
across.
company under 100 employees?
Well, there's really no restriction on size of company at all because they're individual policies.
There was just stipulations on us because we had fewer than 100 employees.
Right, it was more the group market, what I was alluding to, with being under 100, that the group market can be particularly challenging. But ICRA market, any size.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Next, we have the fifth grade teaching position and middle school teaching contracts. Is there a motion to approve the full-time contracts for Kylie Wilmot, the contracts?
I will make a motion to approve full-time teacher contracts for Kylie Wilmot, good name, and Brantina DeSalva for the Silver Lake Salem Joint One School District beginning August, sorry, I'm zoomed in, August 1st, I'm assuming, August of 2025.
Motion by Mrs. Regner. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is the CompuNet contract. You want to talk about this a little bit, Kim?
So in the board packet is the link to the CompuNet contract. We've worked with them now for the year, which was, it's been a really great experience. I've worked very closely with the owner, Amber, in lots of meetings. I feel like they're very, very responsive. The gentleman that comes in one day a week, his name is Peyton. He's very friendly, but also very attentive. And I don't know, the guy just walks around. He's just happy all the time. And they're very responsive. Our service has been much better. I don't ever have internet problems anymore like I was. I haven't heard of a lot of that going around. So I am in this contract looking to increase some of their services over the course of the next year to do more of the hardware management with the Chromebooks, getting those ready, being the point person for our testing and taking over Google. As we move Julie into more focusing on the instructional aspect of our school, whether it be AI, PBL, our library and media services, there has to be some freeing up of time as well on that. And so I talked to them. I've been, like I said, been meeting with them a good portion of the year about what do those services look like. How can we sort of streamline things for accountability purposes, freeing up some internal things so that the time and talents of the person that is internally is working more directly with kids and with our staff. So that's what that contract shows.
In the contract, there's a couple areas that it says as requested by staff. Which staff does this refer to?
Let me look at
There's a couple different.
Can you read it to me, Vicki?
When I get that open. Just give me a
Oh,
second.
do I have it in front of me? I don't think I
Is it
printed
the,
it.
the help desk and
No. Just give me-
So I can say to you, all of our staff, including myself, which I don't like to do, I like to just get the help right away. You put in help tickets, it's called. And so if you're having an issue with something, you email the help desk. The staff is requesting, can you please, I need this taken care of. There was something going on with I can't even remember what it was with my computer that I couldn't figure out. And so then they, a lot of times, remote in and they take over my computer. or Peyton works at Randall too, so sometimes he buzzes over. Other times, it waits until Thursday when he's in.
One of them is in the red and it says manage and maintain a Surly web filtering for all
Securely.
policies and URLs requested by staff. I don't really know what that means, but who's the staff that requests that?
It's probably me, the staff, as far as the request that I'm putting in for so right now, Securely is the program or software that we use that helps make sure that kids aren't going on sites that they shouldn't be going on. So it helps us monitor that.
Okay, I just didn't know, I mean, is that open-ended? Anybody can request that? It's really, that one seemed rather important. The other one, I get the help ticket thing.
Okay,
I understand that system, given my past employment, but yeah, there was another area, but that one just seemed like, just needed to have a little bit of explanation. So thank you for that.
Do we have a motion on the table? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the amended managed service provider contract with CompuNet beginning July 1st, 2025.
Motion by Mr. Hurst. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That was Hurst and Galich. All right. Advanced Learning Handbook.
So this is something that, I put in the state statutes that's required by Wisconsin state statutes for districts to have a plan in place that identifies and supports our advanced learners. So we've historically had a plan. It wasn't formally documented. So one of our staff members was working on that this year and unfortunately had to go out on leave. So I kind of took what she did as the foundation of it and worked with DPI, some internal staff members to make sure we had a plan in place that identifies students who have advanced learning needs. So that the plan, as I have it linked in your board packet, is there, which is what I'm asking for approval. We put together the parameters of when we consider students advanced, how we test, and next year the goal would be to build out some of those areas. So there's 5 areas that are identified or looked at through the state as areas of giftedness or advancedness, I guess. And so right now this plan really focuses on the academic piece of that. There's also like leadership and creativity. So those pieces are also going to be built out over the course of the year, and the plan will be added to.
All right. Any questions, discussion?
I will make a motion to approve the Advanced Learning Handbook as presented.
Motion by Mr. Gentile. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Okay, so Andrea is going to talk a little bit to the board about 2 positions that we are seeking to have board approval for, sort of the reasoning why now, and the benefits of both of them.
So I know I won't read this to you because you had that in your packet. So I just kind of just wanted to talk in my own terms about it and not read through that. So the math specialist / coach would really be like having another Marlene. I mean, Marlene I wish she didn't leave because she's done an amazing job with Act 20 because you don't have to do Act 20 luckily at the high school, but it's really like, here, do all of this, but we're not going to really give you any money to hire extra people. So she has been doing like all of the testing that's required and writing out the plans and contacting parents and meeting with them if need be, and still doing intervention and going into comment time and working with teachers, making sure that we're all updated on the requirements. And this is just about reading. So math has really not been a focus, and we don't want that to not be a focus. History wise, for those of you that have been on the board, when we looked at RTI and interventionists, we had 2 interventionists, And you've heard me over the years talk about our growth and why our test score or our report card looks so great. And it's because of the growth, because we're growing kids, especially at the lower level. And it really had a lot to do with our kids that were getting that extra support. So Marlene has, we're really trying to focus not so much on the pull out into small group. She's been going into Comet Time. So, she's all over the place with trying to get into everywhere between K and 4 to go in and be an extra pair of hands and helping teachers with differentiating and working. But we also have kids that are considered a tier 3 that need to have that individual time, or any kids that are being referred for like SLD, there has to be you have to have a scripted program. So, Marlene has, I don't know how she's keeping sane because it is a lot that is being required through Act 20. So looking for math, we're requesting to really be able to have a person to do similar things that Marlene is doing when it comes to math. So helping teachers with looking at data and differentiating, and again, doing all of the things that Marlene does as far as pushing into Comet Time and helping out with, kids that need the whole spectrum. So not just the kids that are lower level, like we just talked about with our advanced learners. We need to look at what are we doing with our advanced learners, and helping out with that. And then as far as coaching, again, being able to go in and work with teachers. We talked about obviously in a couple years, we're going to have a pretty large turnover, or maybe not. Maybe people will stay till they're 70. Hoping so. But when you have a building that has 5-6 new teachers, being able to mentor and go in and work with them on a more consistent basis. When you have a mentor you're a 4th grade teacher and your mentor's a 6th grade teacher, that's a lot different than a coach being able to come in and work with you and watch you do your math lesson. And here's a suggestion, and, working on with PBL. And we talk about kids, being more individualistic and having some choice. Well, as a teacher, you have 24 kids and you want them all to have that choice. So really just having that extra person, like I said, because Act 20 isn't going away. So Marlene's jobs are really not lessening anything that you're seeing that the government is pushing. So I don't see all of the things that she's been having to do this year and how thinly stretched she is, and not really being able to focus at all. She has no time to do any of that with math. It's just not possible. So, and I know you guys were able to look through this. So if you have questions too, I just wanted to speak and not necessarily read to you.
I was just wondering, does this focus on students from all grades?
Yeah. So currently with Act 20, it's been such a big push that we really, technically it's K3, but Marlene's really focusing in on K4. But obviously we need to, I've been kind of helping out with the older grades with her for now. But definitely we would rather it be as much as we possibly can K8. There is a little more leeway because you don't have, with Act 20, you have to do reading plans, where at math, you don't have to do that. So I feel like this position will be able to stretch farther because there isn't such a push of you have to do this intensively with K3 kids. You don't have to do that for math. Not yet.
Did all
Math
the
would be-
teachers have input on the need for this position, for the need for this to come?
And we didn't formally, but there is great concern from the staff that we are not doing this similar, reading is definitely getting the focus. There has been a lot of concern about the math part of it. I know some teacher in our audience have concerns about that, because they really are the ones trying to do all this with Act 20 and have our individual groups with reading, and then now they're trying to do that with math, and there is no extra
Okay.
pair of hands for that, so.
Other than supporting the teachers in the co-plan, co-serve model, would they provide any SDI minutes or closing the gaps for kids with disabilities?
If they had the right license.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody comes in with a regular education license, then we could look at getting them licensed for special education so that their minutes could count as SDI. One of the things that Marlene is doing, she is focusing mostly K4, but when we have a student brought up as a referral, she is then providing, because we have to have 2 rounds of intensive. It's kind of it's like a catch-22 because you can't deny a referral because there hasn't been intervention, but you also can't qualify without the intervention. It's this weird special ed like tornado that, so like currently Marlene doesn't provide, especially with Act 20 this year. She doesn't really do any SDI with our, she is a reading interventionist, so she can't. So I think that would be fantastic if that person came with a license that's already qualified to do that. And if not, you could do an emergency license and get them licensed so that they could help out with some of those math interventions. Because I know not just the regular ed teachers, but the special ed teachers as well, you know, have some concerns with that math time. Getting
So
those supports.
What is an SDI again?
Specially designed instruction, I'm sorry.
So is that
No, it's
something-
him.
So,
It's all you educators speaking acronyms.
if a student has an IEP, they're guaranteed, it's like a legal guarantee that they get this many minutes, and it has to be from a special education teacher, an interventionist. So if a kid has an IEP and they need math minutes, a regular education teacher teaching them doesn't meet the requirement at all, even if they may know the content. It's like just the way it works with licensing.
And so when we post for this position, potentially, is that something that we include in the post? Seeking somebody licensed with this?
So
It
you
would
can,
probably be
yeah,
You can say.
you can list the
preferred,
licenses
yeah.
you're like requiring, in this
Or
day and age to
preferring.
get a
Preferring,
special
yeah.
You can
education
say
license.
preferred.
we wouldn't probably say it's a, you know, a deal breaker.
requirement, no,
It's not a
no, we don't want it
requirement,
to be a
right?
requirement because we can file for an emergency license, and so then the other question I would ask in that is you know, obviously somebody with that qualification already, I would assume has got a little bit higher of a cost associated to them.
Potentially, and I
Depends
mean,
on your years, I guess.
I guess my follow-up to that is what would the difference be between bringing somebody who doesn't have that license? Because obviously if we're filing for an emergency license, I assume the district is covering the cost of that licensing for that.
I
Or
think
is that by the individual?
Yeah, I think how we would structure it probably is, it might be a pay differential, but not, because the license goes with the person. So we would probably
So
not
we
pay
would
for the
probably take
license,
that on
right?
Because they'll take it with them.
Right, because they'll take it with them. The cost of that is figured into the budget plans that I've already submitted, that I've given to you. I baked that right in, knowing that we may go in this direction and what that impact would be. I think, you know, the position is written, as you see in your board packet, 50% coach, building teacher capacity, really to meet different learners' needs within the classroom, and then 50% intervention. I mean, there's a ton of research around the delivery being done by teachers within the classroom, but the skill set has to be there to be able to do that.
Are we gonna post internal first, or do you have internal candidates that?
yeah, I mean, we have it in policy that we post first, internal.
Because my question is like, I'm assuming, you know, if someone's coaching teachers, that's gonna be a more veteran
Yes,
teacher, so they're gonna be higher on the
yes.
pay scale.
Yep, I put that in very conservatively, what their pay would be and full benefits.
You mentioned earlier that she's managing K through 4 right now, but that typically it would be K through 3. Would it be safe to say, even if she was just doing K through 3, she would be overwhelmed with the amount at this point?
Marlene.
For reading.
Is that going to be the focus with this math person too? Is that K through 3 grade level or?
Well, I mean,
or
we
is
like
this
to
intervention
focus
different?
not necessarily. I mean, ultimately you want to put intense lower because you're hoping then
It stays
Boy,
with
you're going
early
to see
there.
that benefit.
Start
So,
early.
and deep down, I think that's when they did, Act 20, that was their thought too, like we're gonna pour all this money and help, which we didn't get, into the younger grades so that it will benefit. So obviously we wanna make sure we're hitting our younger hard. We also have requested from AmeriCorps to try to get math people. So fingers crossed that would help, because with reading, some kids are getting like double dose from AmeriCorps and from Marlene, and some of the kids at Marlene, can't reach are with AmeriCorps, and they're making great gains. So we're hoping that potentially AmeriCorps will be able to, we actually have it out there now, and they're trying to find tutors for math for us too. So that will depend. If we get that helps take some of that younger burden off, and she can move. And that's why Marlene was able to help out with 4. It's kind of an influx of kids that, come in and out of the program. But obviously we want to focus young, so that hopefully that we kind of headed off at the path. But obviously with advanced learners, we're going to want to make sure we're doing something for all kids.
When we talked about Act 20, wasn't there a test or something that had to be the identifier? What do we use for math? Is it the same test, or is there something that we have to create now for this, or is it the standard tests? Like to identify kids that need the interventions and stuff for math?
Yeah, we're going to have to do that.
Okay. So that would be something this person would have to do.
Maybe you are in education. That was a good question.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. Currently, the screener we have, you can have a math part of it also.
And I think too, just some of that instruction in the classroom helping teachers, because even in the older grades, you have kids that aren't identified with an IEP, but you still have some pretty varied math skills in the older grades. So to have a coach come in who can provide some of that support on how to differentiate lessons, because it's hard sometimes to figure out how do I teach a kid who doesn't have these base skills. So that would be helpful.
All right. And the building sub?
Obviously, I always feel like every year I come to you guys about how many people would like to sub. Anytime you guys come in the building, I'm like, maybe you'd like to sub. So we at one point had 2 permanent building subs. I think it was like the COVID-ish, right after COVID. And the permanent building sub, now obviously it doesn't solve all of our problems, because there's been very few days throughout the whole entire year that I've only needed 2 subs. But the difference it makes is I know I have those 2 people. Where right now we have a certain amount of subs, but a bunch of them also sub for other buildings. So it's like, who can I call quicker than another school? Where 2 permanent subs, I know that they're going to be here every day, and I know I'm already going to be able to use them. As you see, like there's only been 9 days this school year so far that we've either had 0 to 2 staff. So
that's wild.
Yeah. It's been tough. Like Angie and I have subbed, and then we start to remember
Part
how
of
much
it
we
is
like
that we've had
teaching.
some long-term
Yes.
absences.
Yeah.
Right, so that we've had some people on leave. So then that
Yeah.
knocks out our
Yeah,
building
so
sub.
obviously our one building sub is taken for the rest of the year. And then we obviously, have people out on maternity leave. So then that becomes someone else. It's just helpful, like I said, for planning, and even for like, if we're doing some trainings or anything like that. Like I know I have 2 people that I can use every single day. And like I said, there's not a day that they don't have. There's never been a day that Kim has never had an assignment per se. So, and it helps with even like IEP meetings and anything like that.
It also helps, I think, the kids have like consistency and the subs know, rather than someone who's in the building once a month, like the kids know them. And then it makes things a little bit smoother when there's a sub.
Yeah. And I put that with consistency with planning, because also, I'll have a sub that takes a job and then cancels. So and with the 2 building sub, obviously if they're sick, but sometimes we'll have subs take a job, and then in the middle of the night they cancel for whatever reason. Maybe found a job somewhere else, you know, so it's like, there's just less of that happening when you have the permanent subs.
So I have one little clarification here, because I'm dyslexic and I feel like I'm reading this wrong. When this says only 9 days of school year that had 0 to 2 staff members out, is that to say that all the other days had more than 0 to 2 staff members
Yeah.
out? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, like I said, my dyslexia made the way that was worded difficult for me to
It
comprehend.
might be the way I worded it.
Do we have a person in mind, or will this be posted?
It will post.
We're not gonna post internally though.
Right.
I was waiting to see if you could get that.
Well, then we just gotta fill another spot.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Nope.
Is that normal? The 0 to 2? Like 9 days only where we've had less than 2 staff members, or is this just a bad year? I mean,
I just think circumstance wise,
But we had quite a few days last year too.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
Because
is
I was
this-
surprised at how
Yeah.
many subs are in the building every day. So I don't think this is a one-off year.
Well,
It's
and-
been a difficult year, more difficult, but I don't think it's a one-off year.
Well, if nobody else has any other questions, I will make a motion to approve 1 to 2 building subpositions for the 25-26 school year. And a motion to approve adding a full-time math specialist position. Can these be put together as one?
Yes.
They can, and you just have to say 2 buildings. I put 1
Oh, I'm
/
sorry, I
2
missed
because
that
I didn't
one.
know. Yeah, sorry.
1 to 2 building for the 25-26 school year and adding a full-time math specialist position.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Hurst, second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the gym floor.
Gym floor. So, Brian, you have been so patient.
I know.
I feel so bad, but there were so many people to present that I didn't know, like, I didn't want Jordan here long, so I'm sorry. Brian has done a great job. He started looking into what we needed to do to get our floor in our gyms redone, resurfaced. And so I'm going to let him speak to it. And if you guys have questions, I'll be able to answer it.
So the floor has never been finished all the way, or sanded all the way down. It's been since '97. So there's probably 57 coats of polyurethane on it. And as you go in there, you can see it's yellow. So, but I mean, everyone that's come in to give us an estimate says that it's held up great. I mean, they say for how old it is, it looks good. Other
27
than
coats of
yellow.
poly, that ought to look
Yeah.
pretty good.
So my biggest question was, how long is it gonna take to get that off, you know?
Yeah, that's a
So
lot of
they're not worried about that, so they'll sand off. Sand it down, it'll be nice white maple again, like it was when it was new. And 2 coats of sealer, 2 coats of poly, and naturally repaint all the stripes and make it look nice, and it'll look brand new when you're done. So
So in the quotes, there was some options to remove the insert cover plates and repair, like for, I'm assuming that says existing volleyball. Is that just,
the volleyball.
it's just the
sand,
same?
poles. Yeah,
It's just
so
a place to
they're
hold,
too close to the walls right now.
So they're relocating them.
Yes, and then they'll come in and put new wood, and you'll never even know that they moved them. But we're like, if we're sanding it all the way down right now,
Now it's time to do
this
it.
is the time to
Do it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Neil and I
They just-
talked in volleyball, like the boys' side, which is the stage side.
Stage side.
I mean, those boys go running into that stage all the time. So Neil and I just talked about moving them a little more to the center,
Roughly 6 feet.
moving and then shifting.
Maybe a foot. We're
Right.
talking about how we only use one side for volleyball, as far as the
Bleachers.
bleachers.
For the bleachers go?
So maybe push them one way a foot and move them from the wall 6 feet.
Okay.
How far together or apart does that put the interior parts of the court to each other?
Yeah, we've looked at it, and there's plenty of room for us to
Still
put
a lot
the
of space.
referee
The ref
stands and
stands.
everything there.
Okay.
So yeah, we got plenty of room. to
Because
do
we have
it.
times where there's 2 matches going on each side at a time.
Boys and girls.
Yeah.
And so are we increasing a risk of potential
No.
head-on
we're
collisions,
still
or we
good.
still have enough space?
Yeah, we've got plenty of length to mess with as far as moving them in.
They'd have
So
to go
that's
through
hard to
2
do.
sets of benches, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you've like ever been to like a club tournament, they're way closer
No.
than that.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean,
Or they do.
I don't want to
run into each other.
generalize. Typically, the boys are a little more
Aggressive.
as far as chasing a ball down than the girls. But we've had kids run into the wall.
Yeah, I've seen it before when they were playing volleyball. So, and I assume the old cores, they just replace with new wood.
Yeah, they
just pop
put
in a
new wood
new
over
core.
'em. And I asked, they don't just scab in little chunks so you'll see the seams.
Yeah.
They actually take a full,
Oh, they'll
this one's
take
a
the full
one,
planks out
yeah,
to
and they'll
replace
do
with a new
whatever,
plank.
So you don't go in there and say, oh, there was a hole there. So
Okay.
he claims from Kiefer that you'll never even know they were there, as far as the old
They're
ones.
probably removing all the planks that have a hole cut in it
Yeah,
and just replacing them brand new.
And then are they going to do any like new design or the same design?
Well, that's where we're, I've been talking with Neil, and we think, instead of the white paint in the center, that big circle, get rid of that and just put the blue logo there. And then it's called, like, where you put the letters, instead of the white paint, they call it naked, you leave it naked, so the pine, or not the pine, the maple is shown through there instead of the white paint.
Like the letters, like outline.
Yeah, an outline, and then you see the wood.
So there's a comment would be.
There's some really cool pictures.
Okay.
He could show you, but
Yeah, I've got all kinds of.
I mean, Neil has a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. But yeah,
Neil
we're
gets
talking-
excited. Neil gets
Neil
excited.
very
Neil gets
excited.
excited very easily.
Yeah, that's all he talks about right now.
Neil gets excited very
We got our
easily.
new chairs. We're gonna have the floor.
I remember
like-
when I was coaching and we got the scoreboards.
Did you have a preference of which company you prefer to work with?
No, I've been talking with 3 of them, ProStar, Kiefer, and Veteran. And the one that I would recommend is Kiefer, and they actually came in the cheapest.
What
So-
sets them apart from the other two?
Well, if you go on and, well, for one, the guy that came in, he knows his stuff, like, where the other ones, they're good. They're all capable of doing the job. But Kiefer by far, if you go on their website, they do Purdue, they do Northwestern. I mean, he's got a ton of pictures. And
Have they done any area
They
schools?
did Randall's.
they just did Randall last year.
Okay.
So,
And it turned
Yeah,
out really nice.
I will say too, in the veterans quote, they use Riverview once, but then they use Hawks instead of Comets, and so it felt like a little cookie cutter
Copy
kind of
paste
quote
deal.
instead
Bad
of
if they put a
like
hawk on our floor.
actually. But I
If we
think
get a discount.
but I think when you're
They'd be
spending
covering that one.
$35,000,
Yeah,
it's
you should
important to
make
have
that
your
quote.
and be
That's-
intentional in your
That's
bid.
copy paste.
I was gonna say, it sounds like a copy paste job to me.
so yeah, we're moving to standards. We're actually getting new base on the floor where it's slopped up. The black base has got a bunch of poly on it. That quote from Kiefer is, that's part of it. So, and they're painting the lines in the cafeteria, which really needed. They haven't been done for years.
Are they refinishing anything in the cafeteria?
Well, I'll strip it, take the wax off. They'll paint it, then I'll wax it.
Okay.
So the only thing they're doing is painting.
And the lines won't wax off.
No, strip off. They'll never wax.
Wax on, wax
Her little karate kid.
So do we need to decide then what options we want here, or
Just,
No, we just need to approve
Or
the
just-
contractor.
yeah,
so the options are already included in that lump sum?
yes.
So the $9,000 or $10,000 is in that total lump sum? Or these are all
So you're
the,
looking at the core now?
Because if
Are you talking about Kiefer?
Yes.
yeah,
Kiefer shows a sale price for the 8,800 square feet of sanding, refinishing,
Yeah.
painting, etc. And then below it, it has option add, remove the 4 insert cover plates and repair. Option add, repaint game lines and small gym. And then the option add is the base,
Right.
the vented cove. That
So
was
I would
talking about.
just, we're just approving the proposal with all those options.
And I actually
Unless
have
you
a
don't
new
wanna-
one. He actually did us better, knocked a couple grand more off.
That's
So,
good to know.
What about the dumpster? We don't need that, right?
No,
No,
I
that's
talked about
been
that. We
removed.
could use our own.
Okay.
Yeah. He says sometimes they show up, nobody has a dumpster, and they get these sandbags that they gotta get rid of from the drivable riding sander. And he's like, if we show up, there's no dumpster. We got all these bags. So I said we could just use our own, so we could save that.
so what did he come in at
Recycle for
different?
flood
So
bags.
total with everything, 37,510.
So that was about $1,000 a little less, right, than what it was.
He gave us a $2,000
Yeah,
off.
it's significant.
And then that'll be done, completed this summer, so. in
Yeah, roughly
fall.
2 weeks.
Okay.
We don't want nothing done until after we get the roof leak done. And then those doors that are bad shape. Get them done so they don't mess up our floor, you know, and then have these guys come in. So I'm thinking like late July. Summer school may want to use the gym, so I'm like, you know, so either late July or very first week of
The
August.
more time they have to get it on the schedule, the more likely
Right.
they are to
Yeah.
keep it on the schedule for that day.
So if I could call them like tomorrow or for sure this
Start
week and
scheduling.
say we're good to go and get it on.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from Kiefer in its current form for the gymnasium floors.
Motion by Mr. Hirsch. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Second by Mrs. Regner. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congrats, Mr. Daniels.
Can we do a,
Right
can we
now.
do a training on the chair carts so people aren't yanking them across and scuffing it up? Cause
No more
that,
floor hockey, I already told them, that's done.
yeah, cause that scares me too. Like when we have the events and the parents try and be helpful and they drag in the chair racks and
Well, and then some of the chairs, the rubber falls
that's
off.
what I'm saying. We gotta really look at that stuff if we're gonna invest this money, so.
And even looking at like when we do put the chairs down, like what the cost might be for like who's the rug company that comes in?
Oh, like Cintas.
Synthes to like, can we get
Drop
long
rugs.
mats when we have like graduation?
Sure.
So that we're not putting just chairs on top of the brand.
That would
I
help.
think the
That would help
those rubber
considerably
stoppers
with
are missing
sound,
on
too.
half
A lot
those,
of them,
half
yeah.
those chairs are missing rubber stoppers. Cause they've
How
been here
old are
for,
those chairs? Yeah.
I've been at events at Riverview for 20 plus years and they're still the same chairs
I
in the
mean, they're
same
metal
spot.
folding chairs,
Yeah,
right? Like,
they last forever.
Well, maybe we could order some felt, you know, glides to go on.
Just saying,
all-
something to look at, right?
Yeah.
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 Because I hate to invest this money and then we screw it up when we have our first event.
we're not getting more padded chairs. So.
All right. So the next one, unusually hazardous transportation.
I
That,
know it's
like the official name.
that is the official name.
Okay.
It is the official name. So, thanks, Brian, a lot for doing.
Thank you, Brian.
I appreciate it.
Brian's going to be a busy bee, right? With all of these people coming in, I'm constantly texting him like, we're gonna have people coming through at 10:30. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. But he does try to ignore my calls on the walkie.
My walkie works, I don't know if you're.
Somehow it's only my walkie that doesn't get to people. It's very interesting.
I purposely give her the list.
Yeah, I'm like,
She hasn't figured that
Did
out
you
yet.
say she has to push the button on the side?
Or be on the right channel.
yeah.
Oh, that's.
So thanks.
You take that so well, Kim.
So, well, I really got to get my life together most days. So I found out that there is some funding. It's not a ton of money, but funding available to district transportation for schools that are having to bus kids that live within 2 miles because of an unusually hazardous condition. So busy streets. For us, it's the railroad track. And so I reached out to, DPI requires in order for you to get that money, which is $15 per child. We have 132 kids. So it's only a couple $1,000s, but it's a couple $1,000s, right? You have to get maps of where all those stops are. Then the sheriff has to come out and determine that those stops are actually there and write a letter saying that, yep, the stops are there and actually there is a railroad track there. We have to have the board approve that the stops are there with the map and that the letter was written. And then I have to submit that to DPI so that we can get reimbursed. And so once we get reimbursed, then every year after that, we can just resubmit for reimbursement.
That's
So
a lot of jumping through hoops to get that. You'd think that the bus company saying there's a stop here and then a map that shows the train would be significant,
Well,
sufficient.
I felt bad because I had to stay after the sheriff because they're not used to having to do that, right? And he had to come and drive around, and I sent him some exemplars of like, this is what you could write up. So I did feel bad because he's got a lot on his plate, but he did it he was very kind and wrote the letter. So
Is there a motion?
I just want to ask a question. Is this based on the number of students who qualify to ride the bus or actual riders?
Whoever qualifies to
Okay,
ride the
thank you.
bus.
I would like to make a motion to approve the unusual hazardous transportation plan for the Silver Lake Salem JT1 district as presented.
Motion by Mr. Gentile. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next meeting will be May 27th, 2025. We will move into executive session for the following: deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties.
You want me to, you just have to say to discuss items as listed above, if you want to. If you want to read it all, that's fine.
That's new.
Was new last.
Second one.
Motion to move into executive session to discuss the items listed above in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes.
Second.
There's a first
Oh,
by
I'll-
Mrs. Galish. Is there a
I'll second.
Second by Mr.
I thought you were
Gentile.
making it.
There's a first.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into closed session.
Thank you.
Julie, you gotta shut off